Advertising is a form of promotion for a brand, product or service in a specific way to appeal to a target market, either being comedic, serious or sad, etc. It could also be paid for communication. Usually, advertising is the company's way of telling the audience to do a specific action, which could be to buy a product, to visit a place or to donate money. Advertising can also come in many forms, being TV, radio, magazines, etc. Some of the techniques that advertising companies use to persuade you are rhetorical questions, emotive language, and repetition. The purposes of advertising are varied from company to company, but they could be to gain awareness of a product. It could also be to gain a share of the market. But for already successful companies, it could be to maintain the company's audience. Again, the underlying message is for the audience to do something for the company. To create a successful advert, you need to utilize several different persuasive techniques. Some of these are emotive language, rhetorical questions, and repetition. These devices are used for different things. For example, emotive language is used to get an emotional reaction out of you to the advert. This is a Bernardo's advert that uses several different persuasive techniques, but the main one is punishment. Punishment is in Graham Burton's devices of persuasion, is the implication that if you don't do something that the advert says you should, this will happen. One of the ways that the producer brings across this message is at the end of the advert. If the audience doesn't visit the website, they might feel guilty. Also, the filter that the advert uses is dark and grainy, which might symbolize what a dark future she has, therefore further increasing the guilt that you feel if you don't visit this site.
I don't know what he said. 20 quid. Worthless. He says 20 quid. Worthless. 20 quid. 20 quid. 20 quid.
This is a fake drug warning advert. It uses several different persuasive techniques, but the main one is punishment. This advert was effective because it established a clear tone that reinforces the viewer's feeling of disgust and worry throughout the use of it, because it makes the audience want to visit the site or want to tell a friend or a family member about this advert, because if they don't, they'll feel guilty about not warning people about it. Another way that this advert reinforces the shock value and makes you worry about it is by keeping the camera near the face of the man. From this, the audience will remember the advert and then want to visit the site so they won't feel guilty. This is a Donate to Light advert that uses several different persuasive techniques, but the main one is agreement with values. This advertisement was effective because the use of close-ups makes it more personal to the audience. It also shows these people smiling a lot, so it's a kind of cause and effect, because it implies that if you donate, you will make somebody happy. Slogan also, the people who are close to you need to know, reinforces this agreement with values. There are several different forms of advertising, which are talking heads, documentaries, realist, narrative, and anti-realist. One of the different forms of advertising is talking heads. Talking heads is where they interview everyday people about a specific product or brand. These forms of adverts are usually constructed and identifiable by the fact that it usually contains people of different gender, race and age talking to the interviewer or a presenter. And it usually consists of medium to close-up shots of everyday people, as you can see by this organ donor advert. These forms of advertising are effective because, since it contains more everyday people like ourselves rather than celebrities, it is more relatable and makes us more willing to do as the advert tells us. For example, in this advert is to donate to the charity, knowing that it could help somebody like ourselves. Another different form of advertising are documentaries. Documentary is a type of advert where they use images and interviews with people involved in an interesting real-life event to provide factual analysis of a subject. This form of advertising is constructed and identifiable by the fact that it consists of camera pans around the presenter or the main people involved in that event. Also, big establishing shots are used, set with dramatic music, and the narrator is used, which is usually the presenter, to provide you with information about these images. This David Attenborough advert for his latest documentary is a good example of this. These forms of advertising are effective because they usually contain big spectacles of places or people unknown to the regular public to attract your attention successfully, as these images and spectacles are usually very rare and more than likely the regular public will not have seen these before. Adding to that is the fact that it is factual, so it gives the audience privileged information which makes them feel closer to the world around them.
I see friends shaking hands.
Another different form of adverts is realist narrative. Realist narrative is a type of advert where they show a faithful representation of reality, usually showing everyday people using everyday items without dramatizing it. This form of advertising are usually constructed and identified by the fact that they use low angle and close-up shots, which makes the product the center of attention. In this case, as you can see by the Dyson advert. These types of adverts are effective because they show somebody using something that is practical and using it in a realistic sense. And this is attractive to the audience because it allows them to relate to the advert more, as the advert will provide solutions to everyday problems which the target audience will have. Another different form of advertising is animation. Animation is the use of creating and filming an image one frame at a time to create the illusion of seamless movement. This form of advertising is effective because it can capture that cannot be photographed. Therefore, it has no limit to what somebody can create with animation. Also, the use of animation doesn't have to be faultless, as the way it can be animated could be why the audience will remember it. For example, this Crusher advert.
Milk keeps me fit and tastes so great. I want some Crusher, a glass of Crusher. It's tough enough to make milk shake. Add milk, or will Crusher.
There are several different styles of advertising which are parodic, surreal, humorous, and dramatic. One of the different styles of advertising is parodic. A parodic advertisement is a fictional advertising either for a non-existing product or done within another advertisement for an actual real-life product, or done simply as a parody for that advertisement used to ridicule or humorously imitate the other advert. Parodic adverts are usually constructed and identified by the fact that they use similar camera shots and background to the media they are trying to imitate. For example, this Nestle advert of Max Canyon is filmed and constructed like a Bear Grylls advert. This type of advertising is effective because the content of the parody is recognizable to the audience, so the audience then can relate to it more. Another different style of advertising is surreal. A surreal advert is an advert that is bizarre and wacky and also has a dreamlike quality to it. In some cases, these adverts have nothing to do or will loosely relate to the actual product or brand. This style of advert are constructed and identifiable by the fact that they are constructed rather like any other advert, but it will contain some CGI or some special effect of some kind, which will leave the audience remembering the advert. Or in some cases, it can be used to shock them into doing the action that the company wants them to do. One example of this is the fake drug advert, where the man pulls a rat out of his mouth. Obviously, this wouldn't happen in real life, but this graphic image shocks the audience and makes the advert memorable. This style of advertising is effective, as it already said that the surreal images leaves a lasting impression in the audience's mind. But also, since the surreal images are so bizarre and wacky, it offers the audience a sense of escapism. A humorous advert appeals to the audience's sense of humour, either by adding a surreal element or by using comedic devices such as innuendo and puns. This style of advert is identifiable and constructed much like a normal advert, but usually with some surreal element that appeals to the audience's sense of humour. This type of advert is effective since they are funny, so it does have the chance to go viral, therefore increasing the advert's popularity and therefore the company's popularity. A good example of this is the Say No to Panda advert.
لا والله ماليش نفس.
Just you know why you and I will by and by. Why you and I
باندا ما يتقلهاش لا.
The last style of advertising is dramatic. Dramatic devices are sometimes implemented into adverts to bring across the message in a more serious and more of an emotional way. This type of advert is identified by the fact that it usually contains graphic or shocking images that stay with the audience's mind and leave them feeling with a sense of guilt. A good example of this is that Bernardo's advert that I showed you earlier. This style of advert is effective because it leaves the audience feeling guilty. Therefore, they will want to do something about what they have just seen. Also, the shocking images that will have been shown will stick with the audience's mind. So, they will remember the advert and therefore have more of a chance to tell their friends or to donate to the company or brand. Brand identity is the use of visual elements that together distinguish the brand's characteristics. For example, a brand identity is not a logo or a slogan, it is the total promise and proposal that the company makes to the consumer. For example, Apple's brand identity is that it can be used by everyone and enjoyed by everyone, from every age to every nationality, as you can see by this advert. A unique selling point is the defining factor of a product or service that differentiates it from the other competitors. A good example of this is the Apple advert, which shows off their new selling point for their iOS 8, which is the new health app. The ASA stands for Advertising Standards Authority and is a self-regulatory organisation for advertising industry in the United Kingdom. The ASA is responsible for the regulation of the content of advertisement and to also investigate complaints of the adverts, so that when the advert is aired, it is suitable for everyone. Some of the advertising codes are the UK Code of Broadcasting Advertising and the UK Code of Non-Broadcast Advertising, Sales, Promotion and Direct Marketing. One of the specific codes that the ASA will investigate is the misleading content code. One of the adverts that doesn't adhere to this code is the Wonga advert. It received 31 complaints that the advert was confusing to viewers, as it said that the APR was irrelevant to a short-term loan, which misled the audience into taking out a short-term loan, disregarding the APR, which was set at 5,853%.